Do you think that we see more out of Jordan Love this season than the very small sample size that we have seen thus far? Because maybe I'm overreacting here because it is a very small sample size, and he was a young quarterback.
That's the real problem here, is that we just don't know what to make out of him, right? You saw a lot more at Utah State than you've ever seen with the Packers. He got one start last year against the Chiefs, went 19 of 34, 190 yards, one touchdown, one pick. Came in against the Eagles after Aaron Rodgers got hurt, 6 for 9, 113 yards, one touchdown. So he's been fine. He hasn't been terrible. He hasn't been great, but we don't know. And certainly when you've performed in the NFL and you've looked mediocre and expectations are sky high and you're taking over for one of the greats to ever play the position, the deck is sort of stacked against you a little bit. So we just don't know. I have not been very impressed by what I've seen from Jordan Love. Also, at the same time, what have I seen have I seen enough from Jordan Love? No, I haven't. So I have zero idea how he's going to perform. I would not bet on Jordan Love. I don't think he's going to perform well, but I could 1,000% be wrong. This is just based on expectations and the fact that he's just been kind of hanging around. And also, when you talk about guys trying to make it in the NFL, you can't just play spot duty, like a game here, a game there, and expect to succeed immediately. You just don't. It doesn't matter how good you are. You have to have some sort of consecutive run or consecutive games in place where you can learn from your mistakes, where you can get better, and success isn't always in a straight line. As we know, you have ups and downs. Hopefully you trend upward, but there just isn't the sample size here.
Yeah, look at Geno Smith. How long did it take for him to have a great season? After all of those years of being a backup and all of those years where he got spot duty, where he didn't have a full season under his belt. I know early on in his career, he did have the full reign of the offense, but still, there was like 10 years in there where he was simply playing games here and there. He wasn't playing a full season. So I get what you're saying completely. But us as a betting show, what we have to do is look at the expectations for teams when the expectations are really low. And our job is to try to see through them. Is there any projectability? We always say this, that betting is similar to the stock market. Is there any proof of life or any little sprinkles of this stock on the move? Because right now, it doesn't look like it's much, but also the price is very low.
What is the thought process surrounding him now? What is the most honest evaluation you can give of what maybe we can expect from him?
Well, I don't know how many times I've talked about Jordan Love either. That's a great question. But, I mean, really, it's funny listening to you talk about the perception around Sam Howell with the Commanders versus Jordan Love with the Packers, because it is still such an unknown, and the sample size is so incredibly small. I mean, granted, last November we saw Jordan Love replace Aaron Rodgers. He played the fourth quarter and looked pretty good. I mean, that's certainly the best, most optimistic look you could ever have on Jordan Love from what we've had so far. That said, he played all of 10 snaps. It was only a quarter. It was a 2-possession game at the time. So really, for the most part, we're basing our entire opinion on what we think Jordan Love is or isn't based on other people's words, based on what his teammates are saying about him, based on what his coaches are saying about him. After that Eagles game back in November, Eagles cornerback Darius Slay came out on his podcast and had a lot of really nice things to say about him. So, I mean, I hate to just say I don't know, but I think anybody trying to give you a definitive opinion on what Jordan Love is or isn't is kidding themselves, because for the most part, we simply don't know. At the same time, if the Packers didn't believe in Jordan Love, they would have done what they did last offseason, and that's basically move heaven and earth to keep Aaron Rodgers around for another season. There's a lot of stuff going on with Rodgers between the organization and him, so I understand it was probably time for both sides to move on, but they believe that Jordan Love is ready to play now. That's the next step in his development, and that, I think, speaks volumes more than anything else.
The best play in this game is to look at the under. I'm going to play an alternate total in this one. I'm going to go under 8 as opposed to 7.5. I don't see any benefit of playing a 7.5. You either play under 7 for plus 105 or you go under 8 for -145. That's what I'm going to do. The total in the All-Star game has gone under 8 runs or landed at 8 or fewer in 10 of the last 12 matchups. One of those games where the total went over of this, it was only 9, and it was at Great American Ballpark, where the Cincinnati Reds play, one of the most hitter-friendly ballparks in all of baseball. This is not the case when it comes to where the Seattle Mariners play, where this All-Star game is being played at. It is extremely pitcher-friendly. So you look at all that, and also the added theory to where these pitchers are not going 5 innings. These starters aren't pitching that long. Last year, the American League had 11 pitchers throw in this game because they're trying to get everybody in. So this means that each pitcher does not have to save anything in the tank. So instead of throwing fastballs at 95, 96, they can reach back and take it to another level because they're only pitching 1 inning. So they're going to have more zip on their fastball. The strategy is going to be different. So I think it's going to be even tougher on some of these hitters. So I'll take the under 8 as my best play in the All-Star game.
Oh, man, I want to tell you on that. That's a good analysis there, Chelsa. I think you're absolutely right, and I love playing it up to 8. The under is hit overall. I know you mentioned under 8, in 10 of the last 12, and just overall the under is hit in 10 of the last 15 All-Star games, and that's absolutely where the money is coming in. It's juiced to the under, so I'm with you there, and that's just a greater point, right? When you're a stud pitcher. I mean, look at the American League when you have these guys who are starting to pitch, and then we don't even talk about the relievers who come in, right?
Right.
And some of these guys who, I mean, we always focus on the starting pitching, and I get that, and we focus on the big lineups, but then you look at a guy like Felix Bautista, for example, for the Orioles. He could come in and throw a shutdown inning. So in the totality of the game, it's hard, at least for me, it's hard to make a case for a ton of runs when you look at these guys coming in and giving their best stuff for 1 inning. And frankly, if a guy gets into trouble and let's say there's a couple guys on base and no outs, maybe the manager will let that pitcher pitch through it. You can bring in another stud and shut down the other lineup immediately. It's just different than any other type of game.
We are approaching the doldrums of betting when it comes to this next week because we're not going to have a ton of baseball. So maybe something we can direct our attention to is the Scottish Open over in the golf world. I know you have some bets for us, so speak to the people who are looking for something to bet on.
Chelsa, this is Europe's time of the year to shine, right? They got Wimbledon, they got a couple golf tournaments. This is what it's about. So the Scottish Open's got a great field this week because everybody wants to tune up for the Open Championship, which is next week. And obviously when you go to Europe, it's a totally different style of golf. They play on links golf courses, which are a lot different than what we're used to here in America. And obviously the weather is so much different too. I was looking at the forecast for the tournament this week. Some of those wind gusts that they're projecting could reach like 25 or 30 miles per hour. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be a lot different than what those guys are used to seeing. You can see if you're watching on Twitch, I mean, how strong the field is this week. You got Scotty, Rory, Cantlay, Schauffele, Hovland's in there, Ricky Fowler, who just won. So it's a loaded field. The guy I like, though, is Jordan Spieth at 20-1. Anytime we go to Europe, anytime we're playing links golf, I always tend to bet Spieth, and it's because of his creativity. When you go to Europe, it's so much about your creativity and the style of shots that you play, and your short game has to be really, really good. And Jordan just checks all those boxes, and he's obviously been playing pretty good golf this year. He hasn't won a tournament yet, so I think he is due to win one at some point this season, but I like Spieth a lot at the Scottish this week, and I think I'm going to back him at the Open next week as well.